Welcome to Marcor Studios, where here we will be interviewing different industry professionals and educating our homeowners as well as the industry as a whole. Hope you enjoy the show. All right, welcome to Marcor Studios. We are here today with our sales manager, Chase Paris, and we've got our head of purchasing at MGM, Ray Nurnberger. Raymond.
That's me.
Tolerating me for a very, very, very long time.
A lot of years.
So let's talk about the Marcor story, how we got here, but more importantly, how both of you guys got here. So Ray, you want to start about how you got fired?
Yeah, I guess we might as well start there. So I've only been fired one time my entire life, and that was by Gary Marzano.
Oh boy,
Who was Gina's dad. We won't get into why, but several years later, I was proved right.
Shocker.
Gina was the one who apologized. And when
Gary apologized to you, let's be real.
I didn't get there yet. So, yes, Gina called me up. We went out to dinner. She apologized, and fast forward, I don't know, 10 more years or so after that.
About that, I don't know.
Yeah, you had got your building. We had talked about it.
We got wives, husbands, kids, chickens.
Yeah, chickens. Yeah, chickens. Farm. So fast forward, Gina calls me about her building. She's excited about it, which is where we're sitting right now. And I come here and it was completely empty. And she was just about to, put the offices together and all that stuff. So we had a conversation about, would I ever come back and work for you? And we had whatever conversation we had and said, we'll talk in the future.
And you said as long as you didn't work for Gary.
As long as I don't have to work for Gary.
I'll work with him, but I will not let him sign my paycheck.
Correct. He can't have firing over me. So, so other things happened to my last employer. I decided I didn't want to be there anymore. I called up Gina. I said, hey, I'm going to be putting my notice in, and I know this is earlier than, we had expected, but, would you... I'm
so excited for you to make coffee.
Tea.
Well, I drink tea, but it was assumed that I like coffee.
Yeah. And then, so, we talked about it. We came together, and, but before that, we did meet for dinner with Gary.
We did.
And that's where we established, while Gary was sitting at the table, that he had no power to fire me. And that's the only way I would come on board is because, But since then, it's been really interesting. It's, we have a supply division. Got a lot of opportunity with the woman-owned, entity. And that was the thing I was attracted to because it was something different.
So let's talk a little more about the women-built entity of like the WBE. So a WBE, there's benefits for these builder developers, these prime contractors, anything that's a state-funded contract or city or county that we actually can supply materials to them where they can actually get a discount. Yeah, they can get utilization towards the contract for the government funding. And a lot of these government contracts require a percentage of the project to be utilized.
25%.
Some of them, yeah. That it has to be a woman, a minority, or a disabled veteran, which they're not really that easy to come by. A lot of the bigger ticket items are coming from, building supplies is a great way for them to get it. And we had to be a useful function, and we've established that. So, but get into like your background of like, what'd you do, before you even went Marcor round one and, pre-Gary. I know you since I'm 15 years old, and you've been making fun of me for quite some time. So let's talk about like you and Chase knew each other, and you guys have been friends, enemies, frenemies. I don't know what you guys want to call each other.
Well, I had met Chase through, I guess it was through...
You were working for Miles Kelly.
Miles Kelly, correct. So, I was the branch manager at Miles Kelly. They
had building supply.
Building supply. It was no longer. It was bought up by another company. But Yeah, we Chase and the company he was at were big roofing, window siding, and did a lot of roofing. And I ended up having a relationship with them, selling all their Owens Corning roofing. That's kind of where Gary came in. I had known Gary, how that relationship between us, all three of us, and you developed where they were looking for installers. I knew Gary was available, doing all the, the Home Depots, the Lowe's. So he had the operation that they needed, and we kind of connected it all together. So that's how the three of us started working together. So that's been, 20 years?
Maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
I'm going to say it's over 20.
Yeah.
Not to date myself, but.
Correct. So
I started when I was 12.
and he's only,
You guys
he's
all
only
know-
39.
You guys all know
Only
Gary.
39 now.
That's why we call you the Toys R Us kid.
Yeah.
So
the interesting thing is, how everything developed, and, from Miles Kelly to my relationship with Unified and Chase, I ended up working for Chase at Unified.
Yeah.
And I opened up their Westchester location in White Plains. It was at that point. Yeah, White Plains. So I was up there for 2.5 years, and unfortunately I had to leave for personal reasons. This is where I come in to working with Gary.
So he wasn't so bad because he took you in when you had some personal reasons and you needed to be close to home.
Gary's
Gary's
a great human being, but he's the only human being that fired me. He'll never live that down.
No, we could never let him live that down. It's just too much fun to make fun of him with it.
Yeah. But again, before I did come on, I made him apologize, and he apologized that night at that dinner table. I said, before I come on, you have to apologize. I made him apologize, and he did.
And it was sincere. It was definitely sincere.
Yeah.
There were no tears, but it was sincere.
Correct.
So Chase, talk to me. So give us your background of, you started at 12.
17 years old as a helper at bringing materials up and bringing the debris down. Worked myself up to a foreman, ran crews doing windows and siding. Then became a salesperson, then a sales manager, then vice president, and ultimately president of one of the larger remodelers on Long Island at that point, with 5 locations and 100 employees. And then during the pandemic, my previous partner, the majority owner of the business, and myself, had different values, different ways of doing things. So I decided to resign. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I started to install again. Do what I know best.
How long were you there for?
I was there for over 25 years. And I left when I was the president. Again, I didn't know, did not want to jump right back into corporate world. So I thought, and I did what I knew best to put back on my tool belt and started to install again. And then a couple of medical issues,
Couple of trees.
a couple of accidents,
Running quads and things that you shouldn't.
and stuff like that. So I got a little banged up, and then someone called me from another one of our competitors back in the day, and I went to work for them, and did quite well. Made a lot of money. I was the number 2 salesman nationwide out of almost 1,600 salesmen. Were net sales lead issued NSLI, which is a measuring device for salesmen on what they're bringing in per lead issued. And I was very successful there. Thought I had a home for life, and then they sold to an equity firm. So didn't really like the values again. And at my age, I'm 39,
39, but doing this for over 40 years. So let's do that math.
been doing it for 40
He was
years.
doing it in the embryo.
So I started in the womb. So I decided to resign, and I know Gina and Ray for a very, very long time, and I saw the opportunity here. Again, with Ray on the distributorship and the material end of things, I had great trust in that, and I know Gina, with her networking skills and just in general the way that she goes to business, was very enticing for someone like myself. I think where the opportunity for me really was here is being to grow this retail business. We have the back end, we have the labor, we have the material, we have Gina out front, talking to people and selling things. What we needed to do was develop a retail operation, making sure that we're able to bring the products to the consumers at a fair price and then getting them installed the right way. So that's what really was appealing to me, is because they had all of that, what they call back end there. I just really had to sell, and that's what I'm good at, and that's what I like. So it was a great opportunity, and so far we've only been here 2 months.
You're crushing it.
2 months, and we're crushing it. So far we put up, I think almost $500,000. So we're off to a flying start. It's only going to get better. We're bringing in new products, new salespeople that are hungry and that want to do the right thing. So I see us only growing by leaps and bounds. And the more we can bring on financing options and other types of materials, we're going to be able to, how do you grow a business and new products and new territories? And that's what we're looking to do.
No, I think the most interesting part about all of this is when you're dealing with the values of these companies and you're dealing with a lot of what we've seen, well, from you from the supply side, you from the ownership of the installations ownership,
on the install side too,
and on the install side, and on the sales side where you're dealing with subcontractors. You're starting, I think a big obstacle is one thing we value is quality craftsmanship, honesty, and integrity. And we've seen it. We've all been burned in the industry
Multiple times.
Yeah,
doing the right thing when no one's looking.
Correct, and I think that's the one thing that we all have in common, including Gary.
Of course,
the craftsmanship and the workmanship. Listen, those things, sometimes people have bad days, and where I think is the most important thing here is that you can't, you're either an honest person or you're not. You either do the right thing or you don't.
And you're either in the circle here or you're not. You have to have the right mind to earn the butt in the seat here.
I've said that many times Gina and Gary are very trusting people. And one of the things, that I talked to her about, I said, listen, there's a table here and there's only so many seats. And if you want to sit in one of these seats and, be a major decision maker, and it's earned. It's not something that you walk in the door with. And I didn't walk in the door here that way either. And I'm not saying I have a seat at the table, but
you do.
I didn't just come in here and push my weight around because of what I know or who I knew or what I've done, because it was your guys' show that I had to learn. So I had to learn how Gary does things, and that's one of the things about Gary. He's very set in his ways. He's a lot of good ways.
But Chase, come on, let's be real. In all the years you know him, he got much better.
Yeah, Gary's a pleasure to work with. He's very determined on getting the job done right, making sure the customer's satisfied. His great values. I mean, that can't be taught. That is,
got him or you don't.
That's bred into you. That's, you don't change that. And I don't work at this stage of my career. I don't work with people that I don't trust or, don't want to do business with. It's just not. It's not the way I go to market.
Well, I think the biggest thing also is, the infrastructure. So it was interesting because I remember when Ray and I were in your old office when you were with the prior company, and your old boss asked me across the table after you left the room, he said, why do you go after labor? Why are you not going after retail? And I said, because after all, private equity tries to buy up all these companies, somebody's going to have to install this stuff. Yep. And the problem is private equity is a big target, and everyone thinks they could just build their business and sell it off to private equity. And it's not that easy to do because they come in, they think it's just going to be a big paycheck. Especially they don't realize. Yeah, New York is a completely different animal. And now you're starting to see consumer affairs picking up on false workers' comp certificates that are exposing consumers. Lack of insurance or improper and inadequate insurance, which we've had. And because we're doing the installs, we've already had that. We do the right insurance. We're one of the very few companies that offer an umbrella policy directly in the house. Most chuck off the truck and Pete off the pickup. They're not going to have the credentials we have. They're not going to have the extended warranties that we can offer. They're not going to have the self-performed labor that we have. The guys that are on our payroll that are working for us, 5 and 6 days a week, and doing the right thing, and them having that integrity. We're photographing these jobs. So if there's questions about anything, everything's seen. Every job has a project manager. So we set this up to better every other company, and we're still happy to do that. We still work with all these other companies. And, the way that I've always looked at the industry is, even when you were at, not the last company, but the company before, when I met you, I was 17 or 18. And I remember certain things being said to me by salespeople when I was just like, why can't you just do things the right way? Why does it have to be a bait and switch? And then I said, I'm just going to run my company the right way and do the right thing and make sure that people are getting the right job with the right insurance, with the self-performed labor, do everything that we possibly can.
The safety protocol.
With the safety, with the insurances, and make sure that the jobs are done the right way. Listen, it's construction. I tell people all the time, we're ripping roofs off of people's houses. We're tearing their houses apart. Things are going to happen. But it's also a matter of how people respond to it. And
how you react.
Yeah. And it's not, I tell people all the time, when you look at somebody's reviews, you don't want to see 300 or 400 5-star reviews. Quite frankly, somebody did something to get that. They're either buying reviews or they're paying for them to get the negative ones to get removed. There is no shot in construction that you didn't leave a couple of nails behind. I tell people, we're not licking your property clean. Things will come up. Just communicate it to us and we'll fix it.
Well, that's why I was talking about, when you have values, it can't be taught. That type of stuff, there's always going to be some margin of error where,
of course,
but someone can pick up the phone and say, hey, there's a couple of nails you need to come pick up, and
we're right there to do it.
Right there, or whatever.
But instead, we have competitors of ours that will literally say, I'll buy you a new living room couch, whatever you need me to do, get the negative review off. And that's not how this works. I would rather you see the negative review and see how we responded to that than to see that we're doing, upwards between the solar division and construction and deliveries. We're doing thousands of jobs a year. We're high volume, tight profit. So when people come up against us and say, oh, somebody came in lower, they're cutting corners. So you're either getting inferior labor, inferior insurance, inferior products. You're getting something.
You're giving up something. Yeah. And that's one.
We're all dumping at the same dumps. We're all buying at the same building supplies. There's no way that, people are necessarily doing less business and buying at better numbers. So there's a lot of things to outweigh. And at the end of the day, the homeowners think that they're getting a better price, but they're sacrificing quality. Everybody in business knows and in sales knows you can't have good, fast, and cheap. You're going to have to sacrifice one of them. And quite frankly, the cheap one is what you're going to give up in most cases, because we are going to be fast and we are going to be good. We're going to be great, but we're not going to be the cheapest one out there. And, a lot of companies don't have the ability to finance. I tell people all the time, check the insurances, check the license. Don't just check the insurance. The certificate of insurance isn't showing.
Insurance for a handyman.
And that's what most of them do. They have, construction management or whatever the case may be. They're not even covered properly. But let's get into the fun of things. You know me since I'm 15. You know me since I'm like 17 or 18. And I'm only like 25 now. So, listen, if you could pull that, I could. My hair's not white.
And you still have yours.
Yeah, well, I shaved yours off last weekend. So I know there's definitely some hesitancy of dealing with somebody younger in the industry. And I know that I had to work hard to prove myself in the industry as a whole, but also to prove myself to our team.
No, there was like
you made fun of me the most.
We've talked about this multiple times where I had an inside, scoop on, when the comments are made. Obviously, you're a woman, and it's predominantly men industry, and you were young, but no one knew that you were Gary's daughter. So that's, they knew you were Gary's daughter, but then no one really knew what that meant, because you and him are like twins. So you're cut exactly the same. You're, all your the way you want to go about business, and a lot of good, but even the bad stuff.
And idiosyncrasies aren't that great.
The bad stuff. But the good thing about that is, on a side note, you're intelligent enough to surround yourself, and just something I've learned a long time ago when I was a manager, store manager at Home Depot for some time, and I struggled getting to that position because of my management style back then. It was a lot different than it is today. And so basically, you learn to his surround, manager Ed Eaton was the manager. He sat me down and he goes, don't be afraid to surround yourself with people that are smarter and better than maybe even doing your own position. Because, they may have this skill, but there's more of, when you're in management, it's more than about just skill.
Yep.
But they may have this skill to do the things you do and maybe faster or have a different way. He says, don't shy away from that. Those are the people you want to bring on, because quite frankly, as the better people you surround yourself with, in theory, your job does get easier and you get to move on to do bigger and better things, whether it's in your position or getting promoted to a different position. So that's what we have here. Now, I'm not going to, we could talk about how that hasn't always been the case. Through the years, I've known the people that Gary has surrounded himself with, and it wasn't always the best choices. And he did it for the right reasons. It was always from the heart, and it was always because he wanted to do the right thing, and people took advantage of it.
Yeah.
So, we still want to do those things.
And then here came Gina, the little bee.
Yeah. That's listen, we want to do everything Gary wants to do. Just can't always be done the way he wants it to be done. So
no, we have to protect him and insulate him.
And we've done a good job of that. And even before Chase came on, when I first came on here, it was just you, Gary, Kerry. So we're now 20 people inside here.
Yeah, and I think almost 96 people company-wide.
Yeah, so I got in really not on ground level with Marcor, but ground level in this building when you guys were just really starting to ramp up.
When I was concrete walls, yeah.
Correct. So we've come a long way, and we've as a management team, we've decided, the caliber of people we want here, and that's we don't sacrifice that. Now that's who we're looking for.
Has to be like-minded, have to have the right goals, and have to have the same attitude and approach to customers.
The right morals.
Correct. Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing. But I think that a big obstacle, as you both are aware, and you for sure have seen it firsthand, of, constantly having to fight against the doubt of people that, looked at me as the young woman, the young girl. I remember selling jobs and laughing because they'd be like, oh yeah, Gary's daughter, she only sells all the work that she does because she walks around in short skirts and low-cut shirts. And I was literally, he sent me to Walmart I had to wear, he made me go get boys' dungarees. He made me get a bag. Gave me a baggy low shirt, and I had to go get work boots. And I walked around looking like a boy. And
I remember that.
And and he made me walk in, and I had to climb roofs like that. I'm like, can I at least wear sneakers? Like, it's not that easy to climb a roof and wear boots.
On the roof with your new Timberlands.
And I was like, but that's what I had to do to try and prove myself here. And I'm like, I'm just going to be me, and I'm going to prove myself that way. And, and it's definitely been hard, and it was definitely discouraging in the beginning, but now surrounding myself.
No, you got
the best in the business.
You got run to the ringer. And
well, to be honest with you, everyone, male or female in this business, if you didn't get run through the ringer, you're not going to be as good as you are today.
Correct.
That's the bottom line, because there's no manual for this business. There's no textbook for this business.
Well, think about how many years do you have experience?
44 now.
How many years do you have experience?
30 plus.
I'm almost 20, and Gary's 30 plus, but Gary's also, my grandfather was in construction, and he's been growing up on job sites. My grandfather was in concrete work. You're talking about over 150
years.
Yeah, you're talking a lot of experience just in 4 of us that are leading the ship here. Not to mention what's on our team. Do you know what it's like when a homeowner comes in and and I don't have to tell you, you and I are in the house selling. When you go up against a guy, I know a guy out there that's selling at ridiculous numbers. He's doing this for less than 2 or 3 years, and all he did was, he's just a good marketing contract. He's good at marketing, and he's good at talking, but he's using guys with labor law exclusions as subcontractors, which no homeowner has any idea what kind of exposure that puts on them. Inferior products, not following specs and code. That's a huge exposure.
He's in it for the short run.
Well, a lot of the other thing is that people need to realize that a lot of the younger generation, like my age, they're looking to just build their book so they could sell off their book to private equity. And you have to realize that you lived it. Private equity completely changes everything.
It destroys.
We watched it destroy 2 companies.
Two very successful 2 companies. They put management in place that, 2 years ago they were a dog groomer, and that's the general manager of a $44 million roofing company.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but you have to care about your people, and you have to put your people and your team on a succession plan where you're not scared to pay them and that they're able to earn it. And, that's why I'm big on performance incentives. Like, as the business does better, everybody gets to do better, because when it's bad, you're not killing yourself with this insane overhead. And I think that it's also where when you're doing really well, nobody's counting the money of the company. They're all doing well with it. So when you can put people on those incentive plans and make sure that everybody's doing a good job, and it's a team effort, the sky's the limit.
The growth is
Yeah, the growth. I mean, and the difficult part about growth is, is we have been fortunate, and we've brought on some really good people, but to do what we do in terms of the construction part of it, although I'm kind of not in the construction part of it, I'm supplying it, but there's not that many people walking this planet right now that do what we do, and have been doing it. And now at our ages, you're an exception to the rule because you're way ahead of the curve. But there's not too many people that are mine and his age that have the knowledge we do. And
are you saying we're the same age?
No, we're not close.
Yeah, he was complimenting
I'm only 20. I'm only 29. So they don't exist. They're not going to college to learn to do what we do. It does seem like some of the like the charter schools and the like the BOCES type programs are starting to make their way back.
Even the universities are now starting to shift into this because they know that this is not going to be replaced by AI.
Correct.
But if you think about the big picture of what's happening in these industries and what we experience, you're talking about everybody focused on money. Nobody's focused, and here we are not focused on the money. Here we're focused on doing the right thing. Just last week, we had a situation where I was arguing with a solar company that we do work for. One, we don't get paid. You're chasing your money constantly. Everyone's using your money to run their businesses.
Well, what I say, and the truth of the matter is, in business today, because business years and like Gary's a handshake guy.
Yep.
When he shakes,
you can't do anymore.
But when he's in his hand is his truth. The other hand is not the truth.
Correct.
They're looking to beat you somehow.
Yeah.
And that's not Gary. Gary's known for I will pay you before I pay myself, and that's the truth.
And that's what we both have, that mentality. But I mean, in 1 week we had, one solar company beat us for money. Another solar company filed for Chapter 11, beat us for money. Another company that the partner falsified government documents and funneled money out of a bank account, beat us for money. Those are the things behind the scenes that nobody sees, that as a business owner, we have to insulate ourselves as much as we possibly can for. And then all of a sudden I go to get the next contract and I try and insulate us, and automatically I'm being difficult because I'm trying to protect the company.
Because we've been through it before.
But, when you look at the big picture of this industry, this is what people, this is their motive, a lot of them. They know what they're doing. But then when you go about, making sure your people are paid, making sure that you're whoever's on your team you're protecting and everybody else comes first, there's a lot to be said about that the homeowners don't see. And when you have a team that is treated that way, it passes through to the homeowner, and that's where they're going to see it. And you've really, I wish more homeowners would realize that there's a long-term play here when you're dealing with, there's companies popping up all over the place, but at the end of the day, the homeowners are not being properly protected.
Correct.
And our goal here is to make sure that customer is protected.
Yeah, and that's something that we do differently than a lot of other companies.
Yeah.
And back to the partners, I said, listen, going forward, we're looking for partners, not dependents. We don't want
Yeah. I already have 2 kids. I'm good.
That's really what it is. It's like you're going to put some of these people in your tax returns because, it's almost a write-off.
Yeah, it is. It's called bad debt.
Yeah.
But think about even last week with we had a company, these solar companies try and get to roofing. They don't know enough about it. You got a 1/4-inch gap on the planks. Well, I was explaining it to them, and they wanted to fight me on redecking the house, and they were like, "No, you can't redeck." And we work for 13 different solar companies, but they didn't want to redeck the house. And I said, "There's a 1/4-inch gap in between the planking. You have to redeck this house. You're putting solar on it." You know what their answer was to me? Change 12 sheets of plywood and do the bare minimum. Don't warranty the job. We'll just pull the warranty from the customer. How do you do that? By New York State regulations, I have to give you a 1-year warranty, but this is what these homeowners are getting.
Yeah.
And they don't realize what they're getting until it's too late, and they're already contracted and they have massive cancellation fees.
Well, how about that? The same company where obviously Marcor does roofs for the solar companies, but some of the companies also have in-house crews.
Yeah.
So we tend to get the more difficult ones and the ones that So, but I think we had a situation. You confirm it because I don't really get involved with it. But
where we got 5 phone calls.
We got 5 phone calls.
5 phone calls from customers the day it rained, and the team was calling me saying these roofs are leaking. And I was like, I don't have a record of us doing these roofs, because initially they utilized our estimate. The homeowners were calling in thinking we did the job. And at the end of the day, it wasn't us that did the job. It was their own in-house crew that they switched to last minute. Homeowner thought it was us that did the job. It wasn't. None of our roofs leaked.
Yeah.
It was all 5 from their in-house crew. And we did a job just the other day, and we didn't know that the customer, she was a paralegal for a labor law attorney. And so she knew the insurances in and out, and she just couldn't say enough amazing things about how our guys were tied off and our guys were properly, proper fall protection and the OSHA compliance that we had and the way that the team worked together, because we don't just throw guys together. We have organized operations where we know, okay, Chase sold this project. We need to make sure that this is the particular crew. I sell a certain project. I know the crew that I want put on that job because I know their personalities. I know their abilities. So we know how to position these guys. It's not just like who's going to do it for the cheapest. If it's going to cost me more money to get it done the right way, I don't really care. I want my customer happy at the end of the day. So
we're in it for the long run.
We are in it for the long
run.
Not
the short term.
So.
And that's the problem with a lot of these equity companies. They are in it for the short term.
They're just in it to build a book and
flip it.
Unfortunately.
I think that's why we kind of, decided to talk about this stuff, because we're all here for the same reason. And when I was thinking about it, and I'm like, we got some really cool talent here.
We do.
And we're hitting at the right time when, and this has been my thing, and I talked about it a lot with, other distributors, that every time someone gets bought up by a private equity, they lose, like Chase was saying, the values. And some of these companies are bought up multiple times. It's not just one time.
Yeah. We see it on the supply side.
Correct. And then a little more of the values go. So at some point, someone's going to want to just not, I particularly don't, I left the company knowing that it was going to end up being corporate, and I don't want to deal. After being with Home Depot for 7 years, I don't ever want to do corporate again.
The only time that the letters PE matter anything to me is when you want to retire, he wants to retire, and I decide I want to retire. That's the only time that consideration would ever come into play. But other than that, it is nowhere on my horizon.
Yeah. So
we're going to build this business, and we are going to make it.
I think what's unique also with us is we all know what our lanes are. So we all know what our specialties are. We all know what we come in, what our objectives are. We all work to help each other in those.
100%.
We work as a team. There's never, that's not my job, or whatever the case is. Chase has come on, and since I've been here, me and him have been, working together again and helping him, design the programs, get the pricing structures together, and negotiate deals. And there's a lot of talent here.
I'm going to leave you off with this. I bought Chase a present today. You want to know what I bought him? I bought him a bell. No, I'll get you anyway. I bought him a bell to hang in my office. So every time I told him if it's $15,000 or more, he gets to ring the bell. And if it's over 100, he gets a confetti popper.
Only 15, huh? I would put you at 25.
I'll give him 15.
Yesterday's was 25.
I'll give him.
Did you ring the bell?
No. I did the bell I just ordered. But he said, "What do I get for 100?" I said, "I'll order you some confetti poppers."
Actually, was a hair under. It was 24,960 or something. That's a little bit under 25.
All right, well,
excellent work.
Confetti poppers come tomorrow, so you better have a 6-figure deal for me to pop one in your face.
Going to the Bronx today, so we'll come over every Saturday.
All right, thank you guys for everything. I appreciate everything you do, and let's see what this future brings us.